All right, today we're cracking open the high-stakes world of private equity. And you can forget those dense textbooks because we're handing you the actual playbook the pros use to turn good companies into great ones and make billions doing it. So let's get right into it. You know, it all really boils down to this one question. This is the core challenge that the entire private equity industry is built to solve. It's not just about buying and selling companies. It's about a systematic transformation. And the method they use, well, it's a masterclass in strategy.
And that method, that system, is what we're calling the private equity playbook. It's really just a series of proven strategies for finding, funding, fixing, and then selling companies for a huge profit. We're going to walk you through all the key plays, from who's on the field to how everybody gets paid when the game is won.
Okay, first up, let's meet the players. In the PE game, there are really two main positions, and the relationship between them is the foundation for everything that follows.
So on one side, you've got the general partner, or GP. The easiest way to think of them is as the head coach and the general manager all rolled into one. They're the ones running the fund, calling all the shots, and making the investment decisions. And they absolutely have skin in the game, usually putting in about 2 to 5% of their own cash. Then, on the other side, you have the limited partners, or LPs. These are the team owners. Think big pension funds, university endowments, sovereign wealth funds. They provide the vast majority of the money, and they trust the GP to go out and get those big returns.
So now we know who's playing. But how does a deal actually happen? Well, just like a sports season, it follows a pretty clear life cycle, from scouting new talent all the way to that championship win.
It all breaks down into 4 main phases. First is sourcing, which is pretty much what it sounds like, scouring the market to find the right company. Next up, and this is absolutely critical, is due diligence. This is a super deep investigation to make sure there are no skeletons in the closet. Then comes the real work, value creation. This is where the PE firm gets hands-on and actively improves the business. This is where the playbook really shines. And finally, you've got the exit, where the firm sells the now improved company, hopefully for a massive profit. Now, one of the most important parts of due diligence is something called a quality of earnings analysis, or QOE. The best analogy for this is the medical exam a team gives a star player before signing them to a huge contract. You have to make sure they're actually healthy, right? Well, the QOE does that for a company's finances. It verifies that their profits are real, that they're sustainable, and not just some smoke and mirrors on a spreadsheet. Honestly, the entire investment thesis rests on this analysis.
Every game has to have a rule book, and private equity is no exception. In this world, the rule book is a set of really important legal agreements that define the entire relationship between the GP and the LPs. It's all about protecting everyone's interests.
The main document here, the one that governs everything, is the Limited Partnership Agreement, or LPA. This is the official contract between the coach, the GP, and the owners, the LPs. It lays out absolutely everything: how the GP gets paid, what decisions they can and can't make, and, maybe most importantly, exactly how the profits get split up. You can really think of it as the constitution for the entire fund. Now, to protect their cash, investors use a tool called preferred stock, and it comes in 2 main flavors. With participating preferred, investors get to double dip. That means first they get their original investment back, and then they also get to take a share of whatever profits are left over. It's maximum downside protection. The other kind, non-participating preferred, is more of an either-or choice. The investor can either take their original money back, or they can convert their stock to get a slice of the profits. This version is usually a lot more friendly to the company's founders.
But what happens if your star coach, the genius behind the whole strategy, suddenly quits to go somewhere else? Well, that's what the key man clause is for. If a critical manager, the designated key person, leaves the fund, this clause can automatically hit the brakes and freeze any new investments. It basically gives the LPs a timeout to figure out if they still trust the team's leadership without its star player.
And sometimes, things can go really, really wrong. The LPA has a plan for that too. LPs can remove a GP for cause if there's clear misconduct, things like fraud or just gross negligence. Because the violation is so obvious, it usually only takes a simple majority vote from the LPs to, well, fire the coach.
But what if the coach isn't really breaking any rules? They're just losing a lot. That's where no-fault removal comes in. This lets LPs fire the GP for just plain old underperformance. Now, since you don't have to prove any specific misconduct, this is a much bigger deal, and it requires a really high supermajority vote to pass. We're talking 75 or even 85%. It is the absolute last resort.
Okay, we've gone through the players, the process, and the rules. Now for the fun part,
The payout, the championship bonus. After a big win, how does everyone actually get their money? This is where the details really matter. The one term you absolutely have to know to understand how the money works is carried interest. Carry, for short. This is the GP's share of the fund's profits. It's the coach's championship bonus, and it's almost always around 20%. This is the ultimate incentive. It makes sure the GP is totally laser-focused on one thing and one thing only, making as much money as possible for everyone.
But here's the thing. That 20% bonus isn't just handed out on day one. The money flows through a very strict 4-step process called the distribution waterfall. So, step 1, return of capital. Before anyone else sees a dime, all the LPs get 100% of their original investment back. Step 2, preferred return. After their initial capital is back, the LPs get an extra payment, usually around 8%, kind of like interest. Only then do we get to step 3, the GP catch-up. Now the GP gets 100% of the profits, until their total share catches up to that 20% mark. And finally, step 4, the final split. All the money that's left over is split 80-20 between the LPs and the GP.
And you gotta know there are two main ways to set up that waterfall. The American model is deal by deal. This means the GP can get paid their carry after just one single successful exit, even if other deals in the fund are losing money. It's way faster for the GP, but it's also riskier for the LPs. Then there's the European model, which is whole fund. With this one, the GP gets paid absolutely nothing until the LPs have gotten all their initial capital back, plus the preferred return from the entire fund. It's slower, but it's a whole lot safer for the investors. Okay, we have covered the entire playbook from start to finish. So let's bring it all home. Let's distill this down into exactly what you need to know, especially if you're getting ready for a big job interview. Think of this as your post-game analysis. Here are the 3 big takeaways. Number 1, alignment is everything. The whole point of the legal structure, the LPA, is to make sure the coach and the owners are fighting for the exact same championship trophy. Number 2, the waterfall dictates the economics. Bottom line, if you can understand the waterfall, you understand how the money flows in private equity. And number 3, structure determines risk. That choice between an American and a European waterfall isn't just a minor detail. It fundamentally changes who is taking on more risk. And to give you a real edge, here are 3 questions you're very likely to hear in an interview. First, be ready to nail the difference between an American and a European waterfall. Second, be prepared to talk about how LPs protect themselves from agency risk. That's the fancy term for the risk that the GP might not act in their best interest. You'll want to mention things like the key man clause and GP removal rights. And finally, be able to walk someone through that 4-tier distribution waterfall, step by step. I'm telling you, if you can nail these 3, you are way ahead of the game. So there you have it, the core of the private equity playbook. We've talked about the players, the life cycle of a deal, the rules of the game, and of course, the payout. So the only question left is, now that you know the playbook, what's the first play you would run?